Welcome to the Trailblazers. I'm Perry Rarick, your host. The purpose of this interview series is to share with you interesting discussions I have with trailblazing business leaders. They're innovative, thought provoking, they're experts in their field, and they're not afraid to challenge the status quo. My trailblazer guest today is Sarah Sink. She is a senior business development executive in pharmaceutical development and manufacturing. For those of you who are outside of that industry, this is a B2B space characterized by complex business relationships, long business development timelines, a significant amount of regulatory oversight, which is good, and much is at stake. Drug therapies for patients who are ill, and in some cases, patients who are dying. So, really important outcomes. Sarah is not in sales, although I led by saying she's a business development executive. She is in the business of building strong strategic relationships between CDMOs and drug innovators, strong enough to weather all the real world pressures and the challenges they face trying to advance drug therapy from discovery all the way through commercial production. Great communication isn't about a polished pitch, according to Sarah. It's about active listening, establishing clear expectations, and knowing when to challenge, when to pause, and how to employ subject matter experts and bring them into that business development process. She's a mom, and at the center of everything she does is the patient. We're going to hear about how those two things are deeply connected for her. Sarah, welcome to the Trailblazers.
Hey, Perry. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's a
It's great
pleasure.
to have you. Thank you for joining us. Sarah, when we first met, what's really struck me about you is that while you're in this business development role, and I'm going to hesitatingly use the term sales, you're not very salesy. You speak about the importance of listening, empathy, helping, caring. Not typically what I hear. It's not completely absent from sales, but not what we typically hear from sales. And you developed and use a framework, a really interesting framework, and we're going to talk about that extensively. But first, I want to ask you, how did you discover, what is the why? And how did you discover this approach to your business development process?
Yeah, so I would say that I have a really unique pathway of how I got into business development and how I came to kind of form these thoughts and the processes I go through. So I started off in pre-med, and then as life kind of throws things at you, I became a mom, and my first child was diagnosed with autism. So that pretty much put everything on hold that I had going for me at the time because she needed 45 hours of therapy a week. So I had to turn all of my attention, my husband and I, to her care and making sure she was doing well. And then by that time, we got pregnant again. And then my second son, or my second child rather, was diagnosed with autism again. So from that, I learned a lot, not just about parenting, but being patient, being organized, and really trying to come down to the level of where a child is, right? And understanding where they're coming from. From there, I got into teaching, and then COVID hit. So it threw a wrench in things yet again. And then I got into CDMO project management, and it really, really fit into the way that I like being organized. Um, I like being in control and to see the movement of things. So I think that where my sales strategy or my relationship strategy really comes from is having that background and understanding where the drug comes in and then where it ultimately does end up and go to.
Thank you for sharing that personal story. There are so many folks I talk to in life sciences that they have really deep personal commitment to the outcomes that the drug industry is seeking. The world outside of this industry sometimes like to beat up on pharmaceutical companies, but I find that's pretty rare. Uh, uh, I find that the criticism is unwarranted as I talk to more people in this business. So thank you for that personal story. I hope your family's doing well, and your daughter. I know you already shared with me that you're all flourishing, and so we're thankful for that. And it's due to your commitment. I mean, 45 hours a week. That's incredible. But what a
Yeah.
great story. So you've developed a guide, and you've developed it. You follow it. It's a strategic guide, not to sales, not to business development, but to building long-term relationships. So this is good for sales. I hope people in business development, listen closely, but it certainly has a lot of other applications as well. There are five components, five pieces of this strategic guide. And I wanted, with your permission, to kind of walk through these, have you explain each one, to kind of describe what it is, and I may ask you a little bit more about them. How does that sound?
Yeah. Sounds great.
All right. First up was lead generate. So, lead generation, quality over quantity. What does
Mhm.
that mean? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, what we get in business development is we get a database, right, that holds clients' information, who they are, and we're just told, "Go get them," right? Just go out and see who you can catch. Well, there's a more targeted approach to that. You need to understand where the client is, what is in their pipeline, where do they fit. Um, you're not gonna go if you're looking for a biologics, product, you're not gonna go after, OSD clients just because they're not going to be a fit for you. So really what you do is you go in and you research them. You go to their websites, go to clinicaltrials.gov. You really understand where the company is at, what their assets are, and then from there you can get a tailored approach to how you want to engage them and how you want to, reach out to them, whether it be a phone call, an email, setting up a meeting at, conferences like Bio International's coming up. So, it's always a good time to meet with prospective clients and partners there.
So when you say, you look at them for where they are, where is this,
Mhm.
company? Where is this client? You're not talking about geographic.
Right.
Obviously, we divvy up all a good effective way and an efficient way is to identify territories by geography. That makes sense. But you're talking this is a more complex, answer. Can you just give us a little, how do you approach that?
Right. So there's so many tools out there. AI has revolutionized the world, right? And this is true in pharmaceuticals too, where we have databases that we can go to and we can put a specific requirement that we're looking for. Are they sterile fill finish? Are they in vials? Are they in pre-filled syringes? What phase of development are they in? What are their indications? Things of that nature. So by using these tools, going to their website, understanding where they are they going to clinicaltrials.gov? Are they in the middle of a clinical trial? Do you think that they may be are they coming to the end of their clinical trial where maybe they want to do a tech transfer and move CDMOs, things of that nature? It's really about a targeted approach rather than just so I'm from the South. So we would go out shrimping, throw cast net, and just see what we could pull up. And a lot of the times we would get what we wanted. We'd get shrimp, but sometimes we'd also get little fish and other things, and you throw those back because the point of everything is that people's time is so valuable, and you don't want to waste their time and you don't want to waste your time if something can be disqualified immediately, where you're not going to be able to offer them the services that they ultimately do need.
I love the shrimping analogy. That's a real good that's a really good one. I've never I've that's great. So quality. So we're gonna so before we go to the next component, the next factor, but quality. So as you describe, you're qualifying the lead. You want to to not waste people's time and things like that. When do you do that? How do you define what quality is for you?
So it really just depends on what modality you're in, right? So if you're looking for a mammalian protein-based therapeutic, you're going to want to go after those monoclonal antibodies, fusion proteins, recombinant proteins, like things of that nature. If you're in drug product and sterile fill finish, you want to look at both small and large molecules because there are small molecules that do aseptic filling, but then ultimately most biologics, actually everyone that I know of, does go into a sterile fill as well. So being able to understand what these clients what they need, you're able to qualify them by understanding what it is that they need.
You brought up qualification, so I want to parlay that into your second point in your guide, your second component, factor, characteristic, and that's qualification. And the real decision isn't always obvious, is something you say. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, so during the qualification phase, you're really wanting to speak to the client and you're wanting to understand more about their program, more about their molecule. What specifics do they need in order to manufacture successfully? What are their pain points? What are some of the challenges they may have seen in the past that they yet now need to overcome? So basically you're wanting to have that conversation, open, honest conversation with them, and maybe have some SMEs in there too so that they can kind of talk through that those struggles they may be seeing or some of the challenges they may have with their program. And really that qualification piece, you have to understand what the capabilities are of your own CDMO that you're representing, right? Because some CDMOs cannot handle prefilled syringes, and if the client is 100%, the ultimate goal is for them to go to prefilled syringes. They're in a late phase, and you can't support that, or maybe they're in phase two, but they have to tech transfer something in. Is it really advantageous for them at this point to spend all the money to tech transfer in and stay in vials and then have to tech transfer it out at a different phase to go into those pre-filled syringes? I mean, there's also band levels, so the occupational exposure limit. Some CDMOs can't support those cytotoxic materials. They can't fill them into vials, pre-filled syringes, and things like that. So you want to get the most information out of that meeting as possible, so that you can. Again, it's about saving people's time because really at the end of the day, it's not just the sponsor that you're talking to and having this meeting with and gathering and listening and understanding their program and their needs. There is a patient on the other side of this medicine that is waiting for it, that needs it. And if clinical trials can't progress because they're getting stalled out at every single, meeting that they're having where they're being told, "Yes, we can help you. Yes, we can help you." And then 3, 4 months down the road, it hits a roadblock and says, "Oh, by the way, we're not able to help you." That's 3 or 4 months lost that a valuable medication is not making it to a patient. And so it's critical that you respect each other's times, and you also respect that there is an end goal here, and it is the patient.
Thanks for mentioning the patient again. And to our audience, I told you the patient is the center of everything that Sarah does. And it comes up as early as lead qualification in that conversation. That's heartening. And so this qualification, though, it's a two-way street. The CDMO is qualifying the drug sponsor and the project. Also, the drug sponsor is qualifying the CDMO. Are the capabilities and capacity are the capabilities right? Is the capacity there? So it's a two-way street, and as you describe it, it really comes to life. I think that's what you're saying.
It is, yeah. So on the sponsor side, a lot of the times we'll get documents for requests for information where they have a bunch of questions that they have where maybe they've got 10 CDMOs that they're looking at. And they send all these RFIs out, and it's basically like a questionnaire, and each CDMO will fill them out. And then, depending on the responses that they get back, they are able to disqualify the CDMOs that they don't want to go any further with. And they're going to be more focused and more targeted on the CDMOs that do fit their qualifications. So at the same time as they're doing that, we also have to do that on the CDMO side when we're talking to the clients to make sure that they're a good fit.
Yeah. So much time it can be lost at any one of these stages, but certainly in this qualification stage. And and I'm guessing you can't be afraid to say, "Listen, we can't do this for you."
Oh, 100%. And it's not the best feeling to have to say, "I'm sorry, we can't help you with this. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the capability." But telling them the truth and being upfront and honest with them is the best for both parties, right? But one of the things that I do is if it's something specifically that I'm not able to help them out with, I will connect them with somebody else who can, that I know that has that capability. Because a lot of the times these smaller biotech companies, they're scientists. They don't really understand the manufacturing aspect, and their reach might not be as broad, and they might not have the connections or the visibility or the understanding of what CDMOs are out there and their capabilities. So really giving them those leads and sharing contacts, it really builds trust. And it's not really about, hey, I'm passing them off to somebody else. It's about the relationship building, because if they can trust that you're going to tell them, "I'm sorry, no, we can't help you at this moment," the next time that they have a problem or they have another molecule or they have a situation that they need help with, they're going to remember, "Hey, this person helped me when I needed them and they didn't benefit at all from it. Let me reach out to them and see if this is something that they can help me out with this time." So it's really about that reciprocal trust that needs to be ultimately has to be built.
Yeah, so easy to understand. Everyone would agree with you. Hard to do. There's that emotional component. You say it doesn't feel good.
Right.
To say somebody we can't do this, and so it's hard to do. It takes a lot of fortitude and self control. Salespeople don't want to turn business away. Yeah.
Right.
So at some stage of this process, this business development process, uh, a drug innovator, drug developer is going to come to you and say, "We would like an RFP." There, we or they send you an RFP. They want a
Right.
proposal. At this stage, though, you say clarity now at that stage, at the RFP stage or the proposal delivery stage. Clarity now prevents chaos later. Talk about that.
So this is really when the subject matter experts and the manufacturing experts, the quality, I'm talking about the whole team. Sales is a team sport. So don't think that, you may be working and sitting at the computer doing meetings and all these things all day long and reaching out by email, making phone calls, but really you have to have internal communication, as well as that external communication, and it needs to be strong because there's a lot of collaboration that goes on. So you bring in your subject matter experts and you go through the RFP. And basically, for those that don't know, an RFP is going to kind of stipulate what the sponsor is needing, what the company is needing to manufacture that process, that program, that drug. And so the proposal managers will come in as well, and we will take that RFP and put it into a basically a working document, a living document where it says, this is how much the analytical testing is going to be. This is how much the non-GMP material. So it kind of breaks it down by price and by activities. Now, the part where the SMEs really come in is they find gaps in possibly their process, or hey, they might even say, you know what, we can make this better. We can improve this to have it more shelf stable, have longer stability or a higher titer, things of that nature. So the SMEs come in and along with the client, go through, put this document together, and then ultimately we're going to give them the pricing for the work that they're asking for.
This is things stall at this stage. This can
Yes.
be this is a big, big process that a CDMO goes through with a drug sponsor. Uh, and sometimes seeking perfection can not be a good thing.
Oh my gosh, no. A proposal is as much as each side wants a proposal to be perfect. Waiting for the proposal and waiting for it to be perfect, it's gonna take a long time because you have to understand that there's change orders for this exact reason. So, as long as you've got the bones correct, everyone's on the same page, don't strive for perfection. There are gonna be um, instances that come up where you're going to need a change order for this or that. Some things may be scoped in that you need to be taken out, and that's going to be a change order. Things that you didn't foresee that were needed, that's going to be a change order for additional work. So don't strive for perfection in this moment. Really work to get aligned as quickly as possible with the SMEs, the proposal writers, and the clients so that there's a great understanding and a great foundation to work off, understanding that there will be changes, either taking away or bringing them in, that will occur during your program.
Yeah. The next step is, and your next factor component of your guide. And I think this is my favorite negotiation. It's not about winning.
Oh my gosh. No, negotiation is where your partnership starts, right? This is a give and take relationship. And if you draw a hard line in the sand, what kind of partner are you showing that you're going to be in the long term? You're showing that you're inflexible, that I'm right, you're wrong, and that's not the way that this should be. When you're negotiating, you need to the way that I feel it should be looked at is, what are my ultimate goals? And then what are the things that I'm willing to, kind of give a little leeway on? What are the things that I'm gonna have a little bit harder stance on? And then be very open and honest and communicative about it. It's great to get what you want, but you have to talk about this in a partnership style, just like husband and wife, partners, child and parent, that there's always going to be this kind of like push and pull type of thing. But there has to be a middle ground. And until you find that middle ground, that's not, that's, once you find that middle ground, that's when your partnership really does start. And it starts off on a good foot if you have that open communication and that flexibility built within.
So the disagreements aren't necessarily a bad thing. I think you're seeing them as opportunities.
Yes, for sure. Well, I mean, because you're getting a chance to show how you communicate and how you work through problems. Are you being upfront and honest? Are you holding back and trying to sneak something in? Or are you trying to work through what those differences are? I mean, this is having and working with a CDMO and being a client at the CDMO, um, it's a long road, and it has to be a partnership with open communication and trust above all else. You have to trust that your baby, your molecule, this medicine that's going to save that could potentially save lives or make people's lives better is in the right hands, and that the person that you're partnering with is the right person to do it, and that you trust them throughout the whole entire journey so that the medication can get to the patients.
Awesome. So we get through this arduous, long process. Sometimes, in some cases, it may take a year to do this, and we get to the point where now our prospect is a client, and so oftentimes people into the business development roles in sales, that's when their work ends and they move on. They move on to the next one. And you're saying there's a role for business development. So what is that role?
So it's keeping in contact with your clients. Um, your relationship doesn't stop just because, the ink is dried on the piece of paper. I like to regularly check in, see how things are going, understand if they're having any challenges. Um, Keep in touch with their project manager, because the project manager is really driving their whole project to make sure that there's seamless execution. And having that dialogue and keeping that open, the best thing that I can say is, the best client to have is an existing client, because you've already formed that trust, you've already formed that relationship, and if they trust you enough with their one molecule and that they're willing to bring you another, that's what success looks like. That's where you know that you've got a true partnership.
There's something that you told me about that's very interesting. You discovered that this was very impactful. Can you talk a little bit about the flyer model?
Yes, yes. So when I was in project management, um, I came across this idea that everybody just kind of think about it. You go to work, you do your job, you go home, you live your life, and it's just a repetitive kind of motion. And I had this client, as I said, when I was in project management, and I believed in this medicine so, so dearly because my grandmother had passed away from COPD and emphysema, and this was a pulmonary indication, and it had remarkable clinical trial data. It was a great program, and I wanted to figure out a way to make it not so repetitive, not make it so rote, and where people actually had a connection with the medicine that is impactful to patients, um, where they had a connection to what they were making, why they were making it, and why it was important. So, what I did was I would do a client spotlight, and with that, I would go to the client's website, get as much information as I could from there, about the indication, and then research how many patients, worldwide it impacted, how many patients, that would equate to, like, if you're talking about 10,000,000, well, that could be the population of a country. So we're talking about a very, very impactful, medication for these patients. So I would write all this out, and, before, manufacturing, I would print out all these flyers, and I would, go to, batch record review, where the manufacturing team is getting ready. They're going through the batch record, highlighting, any flags or anything they really need to pay special attention to. And at the beginning of the meeting, I would pass out these flyers and I would read off to them what the program ABC 123. This is really important because it is this indication. It impacts this many patients worldwide. This many people die of these complications. And because of this treatment option that you are going to be manufacturing this week, this is how much impact you can have. And I'm writing one up for one of my clients right now. I always end it with ABC 123 has the ability to help this many patients, which makes our teamwork, collaboration, and due diligence monumental to make a successful product for X company. So, I found that it really pulls at people's heartstrings. They may know somebody who has been afflicted by this. They may have lost somebody that has been afflicted by, this particular indication or this particular illness. And by doing so, it just I would hear stories afterwards where they would say, my grandma passed away of this, or, my mom is battling breast cancer right now, or, all these stories. So it really got personal and gave them a buy-in to be more, to feel like they're actually having an impact in the role that they're playing. And I mean, their their job is so monumental. It is so amazing the things that they do, but they have to be reminded, and everybody needs to be reminded in the industry that everything that they do every single day is impacting somebody. So I do this as a reminder that there are patients at the end of the line, and that every person within the organization has and plays a role to make sure that these medications get to these patients to make an impact.
And this is not going to the head of manufacturing. This is going to the entire operational team the morning they start working on this therapy.
It goes to everybody, head of manufacturing too. I don't leave anybody out. I make sure that everybody is aware of the impact that the medication can have, because this is not just some small deal that we do, and Every role matters, every single role. Quality, and quality assurance, their role is incredibly, incredibly important. But you have to understand, operations, they're the ones in there, formulating. They're the ones in there, making sure everything is, sterile and making the connections, making sure that the fill lines are operating correctly, going through visual inspection, making sure that these medications are safe and are sterile and that sterile to go into patients as well. So every role at a CDMO is impactful, and every role matters.
We all wanna be part of something important that matters, that it doesn't surprise me that that would resonate in the way you're describing, so what a great practice. I'm glad you do that. I hope other people, adopt that as well. So, great work.
Thank you.
So in closing, what advice do you have for somebody who might be considering a career in life sciences or I'll say sales, but we've kind of redefined that B2B sales or this profession. What advice would you have for them?
Oh goodness. It's such a journey, and it is so rewarding. It's so rewarding. Um, be a team player. Um, open your mouth and raise red flags when those flags need to be raised. Get in and get your education and do something that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about helping people, if you like conversing with different people um, of all types, of all around the world, um, there's so many upsides to this role that I play. Um, to actually get into it, I would say school. I love school. I have multiple degrees, so I love learning. So I think that's one of the really important things is be a lifelong learner because you're never going to be in this role without learning something new every single day. Um, don't be afraid to challenge and to ask questions. I some questions, just as when I was a teacher, there are never any stupid questions, and I still hold that true today. I ask the I ask questions that I would consider to be very, very, elementary and stupid, but it's always being surrounded by a great group of people who have the patience and they love the science, who will explain to you, what it is that you're asking. So, I would say to get into this profession, like people, like making an impact, enjoy being collaborative, and above all, want to make a difference in the world.
Excellent. Most of us, when we start first thinking about a career, we're tied to some curriculum with a limited number of roles. And we don't think, what B2B, life sciences, what is this world? And so I appreciate your encouragement. I think this is a great part of our economy and industry and healthcare industry to be a part of. So thanks for your encouragement for that. My guest today has been Sarah Sink. She is a business development executive. She represents a contract development and manufacturing organization, one of the most complex business relationships, both scientifically as well as relationship building. And she does it extremely well. I invite you to look at her guide, not for sales, but for building long-term partnerships. Sarah, how can our audience contact you and find you?
So I have LinkedIn. So you can look me up, Sarah Sink. I've got a website under construction right now, yourpharmagirl.com. So that should be up and running in, I'd probably say a few weeks or so.
All right. You're very active on LinkedIn, prolific content creator, really good content. That's where I found a lot of what we spoke about today. So if you connected with, I think she would welcome your connection. Connect with Sarah on LinkedIn, and you can be immersed in this very different way of thinking about creating long-term business partnerships, not doing sales. Sarah, thank you very much for being with us today.
Truly been my pleasure. Thank you, Perry.